It's weekend recap time. That's the intro. I'm Adrian. That's the intro. Liverpool just edged Crystal Palace 7-0 this weekend in a clash that would have had Jurgen Klopp nervously grinding his veneers. Liverpool scored early and often as Takumi Minamino got the start alongside Firmino and Mane, and the Japanese international scored his first Premier League goal a year after signing with them. It's been a bit of a rocky start, but you gotta be understanding. You gotta give him the time it takes for him to settle, and who knows, he could yet take off. I was really impressed by Firmino as he has been playing much better lately, hasn't he? He lost himself a bit for a while there. After a solid win against Spurs where he scored the winner, he scored and assisted. Salah also came on, substitute Salah, and he scored a 3-minute brace towards the end of the match to really drive the point home that Liverpool craved the 3 points. We get it. You guys want to win, but it was a great performance. Speaking of great performances, Leicester put in a great one over a former title hopeful, Spurs. I'm joking, Spurs fans. Don't kill me, it's a joke. But seriously, Spurs have put in some duds lately against Palace and Leicester, bookending that fairly good performance against Liverpool that they would have won if not for some better finishing from Bergwijn and Kane as well, shockingly. But anyways, tons of credit must go to Rodgers and Leicester as they played their game plan perfectly. They know that Mourinho's side likes to be the one attacking in transition and that they struggle when they have a lot of possession against a low block. And he basically out-Mourinho'd Mourinho. I mean, not that Leicester is a big possession-based team and they completely changed their game plan. It wasn't like that. But, they're far more lethal. Well, Serge Aurier cost Spurs in the first half as he gave away a stupid penalty that cost his team, 1-0 down at the break, but Spurs cost themselves in general by being so toothless in the attack. They never really looked like they were going to score in this one. They were fortunate that Maddison didn't double the lead as he took the ball down beautifully before lashing it past Lloris, but it was called back for being offside. Later, the lead was doubled as Alderweireld bundled it into his own goal, so it's a bit of a funny win for Leicester. Leicester did enough to win comfortably, in my opinion, but the way they got their goals weren't so convincing. A boneheaded penalty and an own goal. 2-0 Leicester as they put 3 points between themselves and Spurs. Southampton's title hopes took a hit as they fell 1-0 to Man City, a pretty even match actually. A few saves were needed from Ederson. Stones and Ruben Dias looked great. De Bruyne and Sterling linked up for the goal for City in the first half. It was par for the course of City's season for the most part. Defense is looking good, but the attack, where usually they are free-flowing and sharp, the attack has fallen by the wayside a bit this season. There's just some adjusting to be done by Pep Guardiola, that's all. Everton and Arsenal, two teams that could use a win, no? For Everton, they needed one in order to stay on pace with the top four, while Arsenal, they needed one to stay out of the relegation dogfight. It's crazy to talk about Arsenal this way. And speaking about Arsenal, I spoke to some creators you probably know in MGH, Timsy, formerly of Copa 90, and Deluded Gunnar, all about Arsenal without getting too emotional and incoherent. Definitely check that video out by clicking the iCard. This should be appearing on the screen. It was great to hear the varying opinions of these creators. But anyways, another match, another failure from Arsenal as they fell 2-1 to Ancelotti's Everton. Arsenal with possession for possession's sake, not doing much with it at all, but at least they kept those crossing numbers quite tame, One thing they couldn't manage once again, as has been an issue, scoring from open play. No Aubameyang, no Lacazette, Nketiah up front alongside Willian and Pepe. It wasn't very inspiring stuff from them. Credit Everton's back line, but man, I have never in my life seen an Arsenal side that is this hard to watch. Never. Sheffield United were so close to getting their first win of the season as they played away to Graham Potter's Brighton, but in the 87th minute, the hosts got an equalizer to rob Uncle Chris of his victory. Things are looking grim in Sheffield, aren't they? It seems like Sheffield cashed in on their luck last season, and there's none to spare this season. 0 wins, 2 draws, and 12 losses now, which is just terrible. Newcastle and Fulham played out a 1-1 draw as well. Newcastle were in some good form as of last week, but then they lost 5-2 midweek before this draw with Fulham. Callum Wilson with the equalizer for Newcastle from the spot, and despite Fulham's Joachim Andersen getting sent off in the process, Newcastle couldn't capitalize on the man advantage. 1-1 the final there. Fulham will actually be left ruining the opportunities they missed in this one. They could have won this game. Man United and roller coaster form are synonymous with each other, though at least lately they've been on a great run in the Premier League as they are unbeaten in 7 matches after dropping 6 goals on Leeds, man. Wow. They were 4-0 up after just 37 minutes as Scott McTominay scored a brace. Both goals were full of sauce. Bruno smashed one in and Lindelof joined in on the fun as well. I mean, the defending from Leeds isn't something that anyone was really looking forward to upon their promotion. It wasn't a selling point of the side, but my God, were they ever absolutely terrible at the back. To be fair to them, and in turn to give De Gea some credit where it's due, he made some massive saves. Nothing otherworldly, just very technically impressive. The things that United have shown in the past, that they can be dangerous in the attack, that De Gea can be a match-winning keeper on his day, etc. All things we know United are capable of, but in turn, things we don't see from them consistently, and we saw them in this match. Also, Martial should have scored some goals on the day. There's no getting around that, but his vision and passing was excellent at times. He had a couple of absolute blunders, but for the most part, a good performance from him. He had a great performance from United in that first half. Not as strong in the second, but the job was done already. Huge win. And that takes United up to third place, by the way. And if they were to win their match in hand, they would move up to second. Leicester and Liverpool are ahead of them. Everton and Spurs just behind. Over in Germany, Edin Terzic's new manager bounce was very much short-lived, as this weekend they went away to your favorite Bundesliga side, Union Berlin, and suffered at the hands of Urs Fischer's side. Each team could have scored in the first half, but things really picked up, at least on the scoreboard, in the second half. Union's Taiwo Iwoniyi opened the scoring, only for the king of young records, Yusufa Mukuku. He scored his first ever Bundesliga goal, and in doing so, of course, broke the record to become the youngest player to ever do so. Maybe that will be the catalyst to his scoring form in the senior side? You'd hope so, for their sake. But like clockwork, Dortmund versus set-piece defending, a horrendous matchup in which they always come off second best, and this was no different versus Union Berlin. Marvin Friedrich with the towering header as he was left basically unmarked, and it banked in off of the post for 2-1 Union, which is how it finished. The other Borussia, Mönchengladbach, are in a terrible run of form right now, winless in their last 4 matches. They lost this weekend at home against Hoffenheim. I mean, Marcus Thuram getting himself sent off in the 78th minute wasn't helpful, and the Hoffenheim attack was bolstered because of it. Less than 10 minutes later, his side was 2-1 down. They're in a spot of bother following all these rumors about their coach leaving for Dortmund next season. FC Köln's great turnaround in form continues, as this week they're able to go away to RB Leipzig and grab a 0-0 draw. I mean, Leipzig have themselves to blame for not winning this one, as they were wasteful with their finishing and could have had a couple of goals at least. Köln offered very little and were pinned down for most of the match, but hey, I mean, no surprises there, right? They played for the draw and they got it. I mean, they actually had one huge opportunity themselves that they spurned. Imagine. Sorry for hitting the mic. Anyways, Schalke had a rare opportunity to potentially win against a fellow relegation fighter in Arminia Bielefeld following the dismissal of their latest manager, Manuel Bohm. New manager bounce inbound for Schalke? No, not with this Schalke side, as they failed yet again. They actually beat Arminia 6-5 in regard to yellow cards. But that's 29 matches that Schalke have failed to get a win, 2 away from tying the record for the most matches without a win in the top flight. And I think if they pull it off, it's going to be almost a year to the day that they haven't won. At the other end of the table, arguably the 2 best teams in Germany went up against each other. This is Leverkusen hosting Bayern Munich. We're talking about here. Leverkusen came into this match in first place on 28 points to Bayern's 27, and they certainly stood strong in this one, at least in the first half, as Amiri linked with Patrick Schick to make it 1-0 after 14 minutes. But to absolutely nobody's surprise, Robert Lewandowski is a damn good player. He just won the FIFA Best thing, as is Thomas Muller. And those two combined right before the half to bring the defending champions level. And in the second half, well, first of all, Bayern really took control in the second half. And 2, we saw the return of Joshua Kimmich. He returned after over a month on the sidelines. The last we saw of him was when he got injured versus Borussia Dortmund. But yes, of course, his return was massive as he set up Robert Lewandowski for his second of the match and what would be the winner in the 93rd minute, agonizing for Leverkusen, who were so close to maintaining their lead over the league for another week. Well, more than that actually, as the Bundesliga is now going into their winter break until the beginning of January. And so with a record of 9 wins, 3 draws, and a loss, Bayern go into the break at the top, just 2 points ahead of Leverkusen and Leipzig. Wolfsburg aren't far off either. No, they're not undefeated anymore, but their victory over Stuttgart this weekend means that they're now 2 points ahead of Borussia Dortmund. Down in Italy, Lazio, who had struggled a bit at the Stadio Olimpico as of late, took on Napoli, a team that has been in great form lately. And speaking of form, this was a massive return to form for Lazio at home as they weathered the Napoli storm beautifully. Ciro scored in the 9th minute to lift the hosts, and plenty of Napoli opportunities later, Lazio doubled their lead in the second half to grab a 2-0 win. A big win for Lazio, as maybe this season they'll move in the opposite sort of way than they do usually. Usually they start strong and tail off. Maybe this year they'll gain strength as the season moves on. Juve took on one of the weirder teams out there, Parma. Parma either slumps or Gervinho turns into 2005 Ronaldinho and they offer some upsets, though this season they have mostly deferred to the former. In this match, Alvaro Morata put in another stellar performance. He had gone quiet for a few matches, but he was back with a bang against Parma. First, he set up Kulusevski. Sort of. I mean, his flick through the legs just diverted the ball enough that it reached the Swede unchallenged. By the way, Kulusevski operated down the right pretty well in Quadrado's stead, while Bentancur put in a great shift in the Juve midfield. Alongside Ramsey and McKennie, looks pretty good. 3 minutes after Kulusevski opened the scoring, Morata got his second assist in setting up Ronaldo with a beautiful cross, a towering header from Ronaldo. Dude was on the third rung of the ladder for that one. Later, Ramsey went on a solo run through the midfield before dishing the ball to his left for Ronaldo to slap into the bottom corner. 3-0, and finally, in the 85th minute, Morata got the goal he deserved as he powered a header into the corner. He's on 4 goals, just as Juve were in this match, and 5 assists, while Ronaldo on 12 goals and 1 assist from just 9 appearances now. That's impressive. AC Milan had a historic match against Sassuolo in which Rafael Leão scored after just 6 seconds. The fastest Serie A goal of all time, man. Stefano Pioli is really out here using the FIFA kickoff glitch in his tactics. It's sensational stuff to watch. 10 minutes later, they thought they had doubled their lead away to Sassuolo, but Çalhanoğlu's goal was called back. But he set up Salamakers in a legitimate fashion to make it 2-0 later on in the first half. And I mean, Sassuolo did push in the second half, but for the most part, AC Milan's defense had an answer to everything. I mean, Berardi did make it interesting when he scored in the 89th minute, but it ended 2-1 for the league leaders, AC Milan. While Milan was out of town, Inter had the house to themselves, so they invited Spezia over and they didn't put in a spectacular effort, but I mean, hey, they won again. That's 6 wins in a row. Would you believe it? 9 matches undefeated, 6 wins in a row. They haven't been overly convincing, but the results are there, and at a time like this, that's all that matters to them. 2 goals in the second half, 1 from Hakimi and 1 from Big Rom. 2-1 the final, and that's a positive. And Atalanta, if this is what life is going to be like without Papu Gomez, perhaps they'll be okay. Now, let me just say, I think the world of Papu Gomez, and he is one of the most enjoyable players to watch on the pitch. Any team losing him would consider that a big loss. But this team certainly has some capable players waiting in the wings, such as Miranchuk, Malinovsky, Matteo Pessina. We'll see. But yeah, they put in a great shift against AS Roma after falling behind just 3 minutes in, Mkhitaryan setting up Dzeko. Gasperini changed the game when he brought in Josip Ilicic in the 46th minute. First, he set up Duvan Zapata for the equalizer. Then he set up Robin Gosens with a stunning cross that ended with the German powering a header into the goal. Then Muriel made it 3, and Ilicic got the goal that he deserved for himself in the 85th minute. Very cute little goal. 4-1 Atalanta, a nice little string of 5 matches undefeated for them now. So, Milan retained their 1-point lead over Inter, with Juve circling just behind those two. The rest is all very close. 4 points separates 4th from 9th. Barcelona versus Valencia, 2 completely mismanaged clubs facing off and ending up odds even at 2-2. Mukhtar Diakabi made it 1-0 after 30 minutes, but on the stroke of halftime, Lionel Messi had his initial penalty saved, but tucked away the rebound with a header, thus equaling Pelé's scoring record as far as goals scored for a single club goes. So it was 1-1 at the half at the Camp Nou, and in the 52nd minute, Mr. Ronald Micarajo made it 2-1 Barcelona with a great volley. But of course, this Barcelona side cannot be trusted in 2020, and they failed to kill the game off. When you don't do that, Maxi Gomez will punish you, just as he did in the 69th minute. 2-2 the final there. Real Madrid played what was a very exciting match against Eibar. Karim Benzema, also known as the Real Madrid attack, opened things up just 6 minutes in, and it looked as if we were heading for a goleada when he set up Luka Modric for 2-0 just 7 minutes later. 13 minutes, 2-0 Madrid away to Eibar. But the hosts just didn't lay down for Madrid. In the 28th minute, they pulled one back, and they continued to play well in the second half. In fact, at one point, there was calls for a handball as Sergio Ramos did this. His elbow was away from his body when it came into contact with the ball. I personally thought that the referee was going to award it for sure upon VAR reviewing it, but nothing came of it. He didn't even go and look at the monitor. Then, in the dying embers of this one, big boy Benz made it 3-1, sorta, as he set up Lucas Vazquez. Benzema with some great football out there, once again for Real Madrid, 3-1 for Los Blancos. Real Sociedad's poor run of form continued this weekend as they lost to Levante 2-1 thanks to a goal in the 87th minute. Sociedad were actually 1-0 up and let Levante play themselves back into this one. Overall, not a poor performance on the pitch, but those lapses don't help their shots at becoming the future champs. That's 2 not so great results in a row. Villarreal, however, had a good evening with a 3-1 win away to Osasuna. I mean, a red card to Osasuna in the 19th minute is a real killer for them, and they were already 1-0 down at that point as well, as the free-scoring Gerard Moreno begged a brace in this one. Fernando Nino with the other for Villarreal, which was assisted by Pino. Pino to Nino, Pino Nino. Yes. Granada won 2-0 over Real Betis thanks to Tottenham legend Roberto Soldado scoring a first half brace. I jest, of course, about him being a Spurs legend. He did actually score 2 goals in the first half. And then he continued on to win that match 2-0 with Granada, and they climbed the standings even further. That is not a joke. Sevilla was held by Real Valladolid. Celta Vigo continued their own climb with a 2-0 victory over Deportivo Alaves. And finally, your league leaders with 2 matches in hand, Atletico Madrid. Atletico played against promotees Elche CF this weekend, and Luis Suarez put in a great shift against the side from the southeast. Atletico got a 2-0 lead after 58 minutes, a brace for Suarez, and then made a ton of changes and allowed Elche into the match. Diego Costa made his return, his first match in nearly a month now, and he marked his return with a penalty goal. 3-1 Atletico Madrid, and as I said, they sit atop the table with 2 matches in hand, but level on points with Real Madrid currently. Real Sociedad and Villarreal make up the strong top 4, with Barcelona starting to climb up. They're in 5th place. And that's all, guys. Thanks once again for joining me on this Monday morning or afternoon or evening, depending on where you are, or middle of the night for all I know. Enjoy your week. I'll be producing content all week, taking a little break around Christmas, and then I'll be back on Sunday. I'm Adrian. I love ya. Take care.